Welcome to the 1923 recap. Set in the 20th century, Prohibition era, the Duttons stand at the center of a relentless battle, defending Yellowstone, the largest ranch in the United States. Following the events of 1883, Kara and Jacob made the trip to Montana, finding Margaret deceased and two starving boys, John and Spencer Dutton. Jumping 30 years, at the head of the family is Jacob and Kara Dutton. They oversee the land, cowboys, and have created the Montana Livestock Association, a governing body around livestock and land that they use to protect their ranch. After being drafted to help in World War I, to cope with the agony of war, Spencer continued to travel around Africa and hunt big game, also to help human settlements. His brother, John Dutton, married to Emma Dutton, remained at the ranch. His son, Jack Dutton, a new cowboy, is about to get married to Elizabeth Stratford, a city girl that is learning the new lifestyle of being a rancher. Repeat offender Banner Creighton, another landowner, runs into problems when his wandering sheep are killed. His pleas to the jury fall on deaf ears. Jacob Dutton reasons that the sheep shouldn't be on another person's land, and if he couldn't afford to keep his sheep alive, he should sell some. Also that he would shoot if it was his land. They head back to the ranch. They will need to move the cattle to another state, as the field has already been grazed over. With the wedding near, they will be out for a couple of weeks, as the animals take priority. Jack fails to tell Elizabeth and she lashes out at him. Knowing that this would happen, Kara takes over, appealing to the fact that they are in love, and that this is the new cowboy lifestyle she is marrying into. Regardless, Elizabeth is still in love with Jack and will wait for him. The cowboys push the cattle south and uphill until Jack runs up the hill and meets a flock of sheep he is immediately shot at. The night prior, as Banner's flock of sheep were starving, they cut Dutton's fence and illegally grazed on his land. Hearing the shots ring out through the range, the cowboys sprint upwards, firing shots back and overwhelming Banner's crew. They give up. Smashing his head in, Dutton promised to kill them if they grazed on another man's land. Retrieving Jack a horse, he gives them a chance at life, wrapping a noose around their neck and leaving their horses under them. The exercise checks for a person and horse's connection. If the horse leaves, they will choke to death. They leave the herd of cattle to graze on the land and take Banner's flock of sheep and gift it to the reservation. Chief of the Broken Rock Reservation runs his horse, accepts the gift and thanks Mr. Dutton. As they wait the night to ride back at daybreak, Jack inquires to why they wouldn't just execute Banner's crew. Dutton does this to instill fear into those that may survive the treacherous challenge, to warn others, as fear is a better motivator than greed. The cowboys arrive back at Yellowstone, short-lived, as the entire crew ventures into town to prepare for the upcoming wedding, and so Jacob can explain the lynching of Banner's crew. Sheriff McDowell dislikes the lynching but understands it would have been the same process, just prolonged. He catches up with old friends as an onlooker watches. The group are met by a salesman. The new appliances have been making its way through the Americas. They enter an underground bar and purchase the most expensive drink. As Elizabeth and Jack dance the night away, they partake in some premarital intercourse. The next day, Jacob instructs Zane and the cowboys to lead the trail home, so if they run into action, they can deal with it first. This becomes their demise, as the cowboys ride past the action. Shots ring out from the forest. Elizabeth is hit, as horses flee and the Duttons hide behind a snag, trying to fire back, but it is of no use. A motorized vehicle pulls up. Out comes Banner, the only survivor of his crew on that day. With his Tommy gun, he sprays down the Duttons from behind the tree. The cowboys manage to get back and drive off the remaining of Banner's crew. The anger drives Kara to murder. In the aftermath, John had bled out. Jacob is on the verge of death. Elizabeth and Jack have both been hit. They quickly rush the doctors to the ranch. Jacob has a slim chance of survival. Worrying what might become of the ranch, Kara eagerly writes a letter to Spencer for him to come home. Meanwhile, Spencer is hired by the Protectorate of Kenya. Awaiting his next hunt, he meets Alexandra at a bar. There with her fiance Prince Arthur, heir to the Earl of Sussex. She takes a liking to Spencer because of his carefree and fearless demeanor. Alexandra comes from a wealthy family in England. This marriage is purely theatrical, so her parents can secure a property deal. Lost in life and fallen out of love, Alexandra runs away with Spencer. They travel to settlements where they are hunted by a group of lions and merely saved by other hunters. Of it all, they are alive and having a lot of premarital ravaging. Alexandra tries to learn more about Spencer. When Kara's letters come up, Spencer admits that Kara wrote to him almost every week, but he never read them because it was bad luck during war, and they conquered this fear by reading each and every letter. Until the most recent 3 months ago, where he learns that his brother is deceased and his uncle might be dead soon. He rushes to try and purchase a ticket, but the fastest ship will only get him there in several months. By then, it would all be over. He managed to hitch a ride on a boat with a sick captain. This trip will only take them to France. After that, they will need another ship to take them to Montana. The captain dies during his turn to pilot the ship, and it capsizes. They manage to survive, but time slowly ticks, as the environment slowly gets to them. Luckily, they are rescued on the coast, and that very night, they get married, so Alexandra will be allowed to enter the Americas. Brought into Marseille, France, they eat real food and run into Arthur, her ex-fiance. They try their best to avoid them, but on their final ship to Montana, they spot Arthur on the same ship. Embarrassed, Alexandra wants to stay in their rooms for the entire trip, until she meets back up with Jennifer, who is Arthur's new fiance. She supports Alexandra, but if it were her, she wouldn't have left. Her family in England will abandon her, but she is ready to accept that. So that very night, they dance in the main room for the world to see. A few too many remarks and drinks later, Arthur's pride gets the best of him and challenges Spencer to a duel. He falls multiple times and gets back up, even against his father's wishes. The last time he pulls out a pistol and Spencer sends him overboard, to his death. In all, they arrest Spencer and place him in the brig. As Earl of Sussex, Arthur's father banishes Alexandra to her room for the rest of the trip. Jennifer vouches for Spencer's innocence. In return, when they reach Montana, Spencer is taken off the ship alone to be dropped off, whilst Alexandra is left on the ship to return to England. In their final moments together, they promise to reunite. Shortly after John's death, his wife Emma, unable to cope with it, commits suicide. Jacob slowly recovers, and they try to bring Banner to court, but with the backing of Whitford, a wealthy businessman in mining that wants to take over the Yellowstone, they hire one of the best lawyers in town, and the case is dismissed. With this new manpower, they steal the Duttons' cattle. Short on cash, Jacob tries to take a loan, but it falls short. The bank doesn't want a loan, fearing that they won't be able to pay up. Whitford takes this opportunity to pay off the property tax debt, and by law, if they don't pay him back by the end of next year, the deed to the estate will transfer to his name. In an American Indian boarding school is Tiana Rainwater, stolen from the Broken Rock Reservation. She struggles to learn and is punished by Sister Mary. She lashes out, and it lands them both to be abused by the headmaster. After the repetitive cycle of abuse, Tiana steals Bibles and kills Sister Mary in her sleep, and stabbing Sister Alice, the nun that molested her. She makes her way back to the reservation on foot. For this, her friend is tortured to death. The school has accumulated lots of death over the years. Priests are sent to retrieve her. Once who runs his horse discovers his mother-in-law deceased after the police went to interview her on Tiana's disappearance. He heads off to find Tiana from this mess. Tiana is taken in, but this is short-lived. The priests discover her, and in a shootout, Hank and the priest are killed. Runs his horse manages to find Pete Plenty Clouds, Hank's son, captured by a priest, and saves him. They locate Tiana and ride off to the next reservation, hoping to avoid all the priests and put this all behind them, with a little relationship developing between Pete Plenty Clouds and Tiana. Father Renaud and the sheriff is dispatched on their trail. They aim to take the train to the reservation before them and capture them. This is when the series ends. Make sure to subscribe, and if you like the videos I make and want to support the channel, make sure to join the memberships, and for more, watch this.